Good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And wow, tonight you're going to hear some things you didn't know. Yes, we've got Clint coming on tonight. We're going to call him Clint, okay? He was Eugene Terreblache's personal bodyguard, and he attended some very, very secretive meetings, and we're going to find out a bit about some of those tonight. But first of all, for those of you who don't know who Eugene Terreblache was, let me just give you a very simple history lesson, because obviously Clint is going to go into a lot more detail. Okay, first off, what you see here is Eugene Terreblache, the fellow who I'm putting the cursor around at the moment. He was the leader of the AVB, which was basically taking on the transfer of power to the blacks back in 1994. And the fellow right next to him, this guy here, is the man you're going to meet tonight, Clint. And he's basically said it's about time that the record was put straight in South Africa about some of the issues that have been misrepresented. So he's going to be discussing that tonight. And I'll just show you some more images of Eugene Terreblache. Hang on, let me just get this so I can do this. Okay. There's Eugene Terreblache with the AVB flag. He was seen at the time as probably the most divisive man in South African politics. There are his troop on horses. He had hundreds and hundreds of followers. Here he is in the streets of Pretoria on his horse. Famous photo of him. There he is addressing his supporters. And again, these were pretty chaotic times, as you could appreciate. And eventually he was actually murdered by two of his workers on his farm, and this is at his funeral. You can see all the people in the background. It was a very, very tense moment in South African history. Now, let's get Clint on, shall we, so we can start talking to the fellow who was Eugene Terreblache's bodyguard. Here we go. Hi, Clint.
Hey, how are you?
Good, mate, good. Is your camera on?
It's supposed to be. Can't you see me?
No, I just see the icon.
Shit. Let me just sort this out. Sorry, it was. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Is it on now?
Yeah, now it's on. That's much better. Okay. Okay. Now, just so you're aware, we are live. We've got over 100 people watching at this point in time. For those who joined us, this is Clint, who was, back in the 1990s, Eugene Terreblache's bodyguard, personal bodyguard. Now, before we get into that subject, Clint, I would love to hear from you, your background growing up in South Africa. From a young child, tell us about your life.
Well, I was born in 1970 in a small area here in Mpumalanga, which was then the old Transvaal. For those people who know, the Secunda area is very average family, parents very decent, very Christian upbringing, and didn't care much, never cared about politics. Did my 2 years military training, and after that it got quite interesting. I started getting involved in politics, especially because of the referendum in '92. Because before that, I had actually been active with the HMP. And most people won't know that. It was a very small group,
right?
But they were generally a breakaway from the MP. They wanted to follow Dr. Verwoerd's teachings, and at the age of 21, 22, I was walking the streets where guys were drinking, I'm not pretending to be no good boy. I was like body, but well, it was, I don't know why. It was just a choice I made at that stage. And at that stage already, we were telling people that Mandela was a communist, and I got laughed in my face, and a lot of other things which I won't repeat because I think you get blocked for the language. And eventually it was proved right. He was. And then from there it went to the Raksa Front, which I would love the leaders, if any leaders listening to this, is go look at when Jaap Marais started. He actually was the first person to bring all the right-wing groups together in Pretoria, all the leaders anyway, and it was one hell of a shame. I did security at that as well. I met one of my hero is actually Dr. Verwoerd. He was a brilliant man.
He certainly was.
Jaap Marais, he was.
Yeah.
People just don't have a clue. So actually go watch the videos. They're on YouTube. Dr. Verwoerd explaining, forget about the word apartheid. There's a connotation to that. Go look up what is separate development. And you'll get a bit of a shock. We gave rights to the blacks. We gave them their homelands. We gave them money. We helped them improve their country. There was they were safe. They were protected. Less people died during the apartheid era. It was only 20-something thousand, of which that's any kind of death. And have a look at now. I mean, come on.
It's crazy.
ANC killed more. Yeah, ANC killed more of their own people. There's a lot of stories about what's happening in the training camps, including our ex-president Thabo Mbeki and what he did to his own son. But we'll get into that at a different stage. Let's keep a bit of trouble.
Now, let's...
Thabo Mbeki...
We're talking...
But anyway...
We're talking about that pivotal time where South Africa apparently became a rainbow nation. Okay, that's when the ANC basically took government. Now... I know you laugh about it because we can all look back and say what a tragedy, because that was not the ANC's idea to have a rainbow nation. It was basically to just take over power and screw everybody else. To you?
It wasn't about that, Scott. It was like, let's put it in perspective, I was one of the worst students. Any teacher out there would have literally slapped me silly. My books were just passed. I never took history. I hated it. Yet I could actually go back and start looking at the age of 21. I knew about this stuff, and there's no excuse for the people out there not to know. The information's out there. They're just too lazy to do anything about it.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as a revelation. It can never work. And we warn people about this. Now, how could I, at the age of 21, and I'm a genius, I could see this. I lost friends because of the referendum. I rode around, I still had an army camp in those days, Nelspruit, with my little tiny little charade, riding around the streets. I had it in the back of my car, and I fight for what I believe in.
Right.
And we knew what was coming. Why? They were communists. Our war was never against blacks. Our war was against communists. Sorry, I still put my phone on silent.
Yeah.
It was against communists. For the young people out there, they won't understand that. Go look at what our war was in the 80s. East Germany, Cuba, Russia supplied them with weapons. They were a joke. They weren't even. Nobody mentions that because they were nothing. They still are nothing. They were communists, and we knew what was going to happen. Show me a successful communist country in the world, and I'll show you a disaster that's going to happen or has happened. Over 100 million people have been credited, or murders have been credited to them. So, do we think the ANC were going to be any different? Well, anybody that believed it was going to be different would be a fool.
Can I make a sort of suggestion, and that is that the word racism, the R word, is used to demean people who actually are anti-communism in those days. I mean, it was if you look at the people you're associated with, they were desperately trying to stop communism come into the country, but because of that, they were called racist. Is that correct?
I'd say that was one of the words that they used. Anybody can look at today is you say something against somebody and he's not the same color, you're racist.
Yeah, it's crazy.
If I get into a fight with a black guy, it's racist. Why not just be because one of us were idiots and we have a disagreement like any white guy would with another white guy? It was immediate that was leveled at us. I mean, even today still, people go have a look at any of the top broadcasting groups. Yeah. How they're belittling Trump. And I don't have to be a big Trump. I think he's doing a brilliant job.
Yeah.
But 90% of the stuff they put on him are lies.
Yeah.
CNN is the worst of them. They were doing that against South Africa. Dr. Verwoerd, well, there's a lot of theories about what happened to him, but the president took over for him, Foster, I think it was Foster, was actually involved in that, and the head of our intelligence. How did Stefendis get into Parliament? I mean, you should know what the security was like in those days.
Yeah.
Stefendis, a known communist, got into Parliament with a knife and stabbed him. And the reports that didn't come out was that they found that he had been stabbed with clinical precision. It was not a random stabbing, not like the blacks would stab guys nowadays. It was clinical. This guy knew what he was doing.
Right.
They had to take him out, and there is a larger picture to that. We were stronger than Rand. Separate development was what they were trying to achieve, and our country was heading to a fantastic situation. We were in a country with diversity, and diversity is just a nice word to say. We had a whole lot of people that would have kicked each other's asses. They can't live together. It's impossible. We've got different cultures, traditions, and even those that want to proclaim, but a lot of the blacks are Christians. Go speak to them. The guy works for me as a Christian, but he believes in the 12 doctors and his forefathers that come speak to the ghosts. That is not Christianity.
Yeah.
But that being said, communism has been our biggest fight since the beginning. They attached all these negative things about racism. They said we're racist countries. South Africa was heading down the right route. If Verwoerd had not been murdered, they were trying to get the blacks their own independence, their own rights. Show me a black guy that's going to do that to our country, or to our whites. No. That matter anywhere in Europe.
Yeah.
They're pulling in Muslims from all over the world.
Right. Now,
they don't care.
Clint, just a few days ago, I had Wynand du Toit, who was the prisoner of war in Angola, on a live stream. And he was saying that his aborted operation at Cabinda was a setup to get prisoners of war, which would be part of the entire handover of troops from the FAPLA back to Angola in exchange for him. But the background to this was that the whole thing put pressure on P.W. Botha and landed up with F.W. de Klerk, who was the left-wing leader, taking over. And of course, under F.W. de Klerk, that's where South Africa in 1994 became a democracy. Do you have any insights through your contacts back then as to what actually was behind that move to de Klerk?
Scott, I've got so much information as I study every day of my life. I don't need to work. I do work kind of, but I would rather do that for another time. We can discuss that because there's a lot more behind this. The reason why Verwoerd was murdered, up into David Botha was not innocent. He was part of it. People don't realize that F.W. de Klerk was not an elected president. David Botha was actually in hospital when the cabinet members came in and just told him, well, what was exactly said, we don't know. But he was just told, he retired, bye-bye, and F.W. de Klerk took over. And we were sold down the river before that already. People taking us off the route that we were supposed to go. It was peaceful. They gave the people their own homelands. The blacks actually loved Verwoerd. Now he's the father of apartheid, but that's for ignorance, and everybody believes he was. To do some research, most of the laws anti-black and white were brought in by the English in end of 1800s, early 1900s. He actually gave them so much towards financially, and there's so much more to the story. That guy he was a professor. He was begged to get into politics. They begged him, and he actually refused a few times, and eventually he gave in and ended up as our president. And to have 2 attempts on your life, where under correction, but no other president of ours have ever tried to kill, which I regret. F.W. de Klerk wasn't one of them, but nobody ever else tried to kill any one of our presidents. But he had 2 attempts on his life. Stefendis and Pratt at the Rangers the show. They wanted this guy dead. Yeah. And that's got a lot to do with our monetary fund. They didn't want it connected to gold anymore. This story is deep. Yeah. And it's still carrying on, and people flying to it.
Yeah, look, I'm sure we can get right into that in another live stream. Now, let's move on let's move on to how did you become involved with Eugene Terreblache and the RVAB? Tell us a bit about that.
Okay. In '92, after the referendum, just before the referendum, I was with Jaap Marais and them. That was more security. There was about 8 of us that did security work for. There was a large contingent. It was all leaders, all vice leaders. For example, AWB was there, but one of the generals was there, Nico. Eugene wasn't there himself, but there was a lot of guys there. Barron Stradom, which guys that would know back from then would know he is. I forget the professor's name. Clive Dobby Lewis and Gay Dobby Lewis. Clive was so unjustly. I mean, this guy ended up with stage 3 cancer from the right, and then eventually got parole. He was the one that was behind Chris Harney's murder.
Right.
That guy didn't do that because he was violent. I actually know him. Well, I didn't know him that well, but I actually met him and his wife. He was a gentleman. Literally is the English word, gentleman. And he did that for our people. People might not agree with murder, but if they actually knew who Chris Harney was and what he believed in, then you would understand why they went after him. And that whole story about that possibly the ANC were behind it and that, oh, what a load of rubbish. You're telling me a top member of parliament for the Conservative Party, Clive, was going to go do work for the ANC? Ridiculous. There's actually a brilliant video on YouTube, which I advise people to watch, is AgriForum did an interview with Clive Dobby Lewis before he died, because there was a gagging order on him. They made this video, and after he died, they released it. Then, after that meeting, through somebody I met by coincidence, he was also a bodyguard. We became friends, and I did for the fun of it, I did one of the AW training camps up here in Woodbanks area. And until today, I don't exactly know how, but the head office got hold of me, and I was just pulled in straight into the bodyguarding, where all the other guys that actually do training in that is I got pulled straight in. Yes, I did have knowledge, but I don't know how they knew what my knowledge was. And yeah, I met Mr. Terreblache, and what a pleasure.
No, we seem to have
one of the best times of my life.
Okay, we just had a little gremlin come in, and it's probably the ANC who playing around with our bandwidth. But you're coming back again now. Okay, so how did you personally find Eugene Terreblache? You just said what a great guy. I mean, describe to me what you feel about Terreblache.
Oh, his love of his nation and his people, you cannot describe. His passion when he spoke is your viewers. This came about one day when I was actually, after I got married. My wife one day said to me, after she watched the thing about Terreblache, about some kids that had been, a woman and a child that had been murdered, about the tears, how he's crying. And she said to me, but he's talking so calm and he's passionate. And my perception obviously was like that. I know the guy. And she said to me, but he's not aggressive. I'm like, but he's not an aggressive guy. And then it came back, and I know this stuff because I know a lot about politics and about the way the media plays and stuff and brainwashing. They only showed clips of him during his meetings where he was shouting. Now, for fact is, Eugene only raised his voice for 4 minutes in any one of his meetings. And that I know for a fact because, well, I was there, and that was part of it to save his voice. You cannot shout the whole time.
Right.
So people had this perception of him as being aggressive and cross and, well, I'm sorry, bad news. You don't have a clue what you're talking about. He was a gentleman. You look at him as tough as nails. What people don't know about him is the reason why 2 black guys were on his farm that got to him that could kill him, Eugene actually only hired black young boys that were homeless and had no parents on his farm. He gave them working opportunities. And now, does that sound like somebody just hates all blacks?
No.
The first time I bodyguarded him in Johannesburg, it was at a court. We were on the way to court, and when we got to a restaurant, obviously when you see, and I mean a lot of black guys, I'm not talking about 5 or 10 or 20, they just kept on coming, and you see these guys coming towards him, and my perception at that stage as well was, black, to launch, it's a threat. Now my job is to make sure he's alive. you step, you, like you kind of like give a bit of a body cover for him. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Terreblache was like, "Sure, you know, might have to wait." And I'm, what the hell? These guys all want to come. And I think some people of yours would actually believe what a load of rubbish. Well, I believed that at that stage, but crap, is they would want to kill this guy, hate him. They didn't. They loved him.
So just to clarify what you've just said, there were a large group of blacks who came up towards Terreblache while you were walking through. Was that in Pretoria?
No, in Johannesburg at a restaurant. We're actually sitting in a restaurant.
At a Johannesburg restaurant. And
that's right.
There was no antagonism towards Terreblache. They actually, in your words, they loved him.
Yes, there was not one person that showed any threat to him, not one that was aggressive, not one swore at him, not one even showed an angry face. They literally just wanted to come up to him and shake his hand. To them, it was a great thing to be able to touch his hand. I'm not saying there weren't blacks that didn't like him, but the point is that everyone that I saw there, and there were lots, those 10 or 20 I was speaking about were people that just meet you that came. They just kept on coming. And he treated every one of them decently. He never hated them. He did want to protect our people. And with that, he was willing to do anything. But it's a matter of, if somebody's going to attack your family, Scott, what are you willing to do?
Yeah. Now,
well, that was about folk.
Do you think that the key motivation for Terreblache was his understanding that the ANC government were communist, and that's where his position was?
Well, if I can answer it this way to you, is we walked out of court. I think it was in Pretoria, and as we came out, we used to call him Layer, but I mean we referred to him as Eugene, but let's say Mr. Terreblache now. As we walked out, he veered off to the side, not where we were going, and that's like kind of a no-no. Is like we want to know which we're going to decide the route which is the safest. And he walked up to some black guys who were actually generals of the Zulus.
Right.
They're all generals in the Zulu army, and they knew exactly who it was. Big smiles, they greeted, and it came out there that there was an agreement between the right wing and I use that loosely because there was the AWB and which other groups were involved, I'm not sure. But the AWB and the Zulus would stand together to fight against the ANC. That was with the election.
So who told you that?
That was from Eugene, and that was stuff that was discussed in front of me with the generals.
So you were at a meeting where Eugene Terreblache met the Zulu generals and they were discussing how they could work together?
Yes, I would say a meeting, maybe a loose word, but it was as we came out of court, he saw them there, we walked over to them, and he started talking to them, and look, it's not my job to listen in on what gets said, but it was discussed about the agreement between them, the fact that we would not attack each other, we'd fight against the ANC.
Wow, okay. Now, did you attend many meetings with Eugene Terreblache?
Yes, well, way too many, I kind of lost count. I'd say from 94, the first time was pre-election,
right? Which
was a huge thing. That was BBC, CNN, all those corrupt guys were there,
right?
To the last time was when I sent a photo to you,
right?
That photo I sent, that was the last time that day was the last time that I saw Mr. Terreblache.
Okay, tell us what was happening. Give us a background to that photo.
Okay. Yeah, pre-election 94, there was the exact numbers I cannot remember, but there was the main group was approximately 37 of us that were arrested for the pre-election bombings. This was an attempt to stop the elections, and typical to people. There's somebody's a traitor, and it was the biggest bombings of any group, including the ANC. I mean, it was in a week and a half. There was a lot done. Like, to put in perspective, I've never in my life, I don't get into fights. I don't defend myself. I don't like fighting. I don't believe in murder. But when it comes to my people, my beliefs, I will do what I have to.
Right.
I will never do something to self-gain. Now, that I was found, myself and a few of my friends, there was about 5 of us that were found innocent. And that day was when my friends were actually sentenced. And yeah, that's when I was walking out with him, and then the two of the other bodyguards whose names I'll rather leave because that's not my right to give their names away.
Right.
And yeah, this is as we were walking out of court, and that day was, now I'm speaking under what I was told, was the first time that Mr. Blanche had ever thanked his bodyguards that they actually saved his life. Because as we came out of court, there were only three of us, and there was just got the video was actually on when Mr. Blanche was murdered. There was a whole long video that kept on playing. The last part of the video was actually footage of the photo that I sent you, and the wards that were there. And you're talking literally about 3 bodyguards, and there was about 400-500 black guys, and they were not there to say hello this time.
So, did they physically threaten Terreblache, did they?
No, they tried, but they're cowards, see.
Yeah.
They're literally cowards. There's 3 bodyguards. Yes, we're armed, but we're armed with 9mm. Wow. And there was about 400-500 of them, and aggressive until you actually look at them, and then they shut up. And we sent out guys with the flag in front, not because we wanted to advertise. I don't care about advertising and all the rubbish that goes around any political party. I had a job to do was to protect him, and that's it. And that would cause a bit of a walkway through. And yeah, there was a 4th bodyguard, but he was went to go fetch the car. He was the head of they called it the Iron Guard, the Eerste Garde. Not everybody in the Eerste Garde actually bodyguarded from Mr. Blanche, but all the bodyguards came from the Eerste Garde. And he was actually the one head. He actually has passed away since then. Very, very, very nice person. And he actually was on TV a lot at that stage. He was actually, as he pulled away to get the car to pick us up, he bumped the CDV6 Opel, which was the Blanche's car. And yeah, we got him away there safely, and he was very, very impressed.
Right. Now, how long after that was Terreblache murdered?
Sure, he was found innocent in 96. I can't remember the exact date he was murdered. It was a few years ago. I did know before the public did, because I mean, then the bodyguarding. His father was actually at a stage that he was second in charge there. I knew all the top guys there, but I knew so many guys in the top right-wing positions.
Right.
Daddy Hutzenberg from the Conservative Party. He was actually offered by Mr. Blanche, myself, and a friend of mine to protect one of his cabinet members, which the ANC were after. Sure, there's people might not like this one, but the guy from the ex-head of the Ku Klux Klan, David Duke, was in South Africa in '94, somewhere around there, and I actually met him at the head office, and very nice guy. Mr. Blanche, when he died, yeah, it was quite, believe it or not, it was quite traumatic for me, because when they showed that video of the farm he was murdered on, I sat so many times on that stoop with him, and it sat there. For the old Afrikaans people, maybe some of the young ones would know, a lot of the food have the tradition on the farm. They sit with their cup of coffee or tea, and they pour a bit into the saucer, and they drink it from there.
Yeah.
And that's why he drank it. And when he spoke, it was mesmerizing. He had this deep voice, and you were literally lost in that voice. And he spoke with such passion, like about his mom and his dad. He always spoke about his liefste mommy and his liefste papi. And this guy had so much love for the Boers, and it was really the whole family, the whole Blanche family. His brother, Andres, was a big, huge guy, made Eugene look small, but gentleman, loving people. Everybody sees his Blanche family as murderers, hate blacks. They don't have a clue what they're talking about, and that's all propaganda from the TV. I'm not saying Mr. Blanche never did anything wrong, but he was such a gentleman.
Right. Now, what was your most memorable one-on-one moment with Terreblache? I mean, there must be something that you remember now, looking back then, where you say, wow, that was quite amazing. Is there something that sticks out?
How many? Sure, but one of them I'd say is actually sitting on that stoop of on his farm. And it's not about what he said, the way he spoke, the passion he spoke. And I'm a person who talks a lot. And you better know what you're talking about to get me to shut up, because I've got very good general knowledge about most things.
Right.
But when he spoke, you listened. His passion, it's difficult to explain. I would say that, and then meeting Wimbiak Mare. He was the head of HMP. Actually used to work for Dr. Favut.
Right.
So to me, that was just heaven. You understand? It's like Favut's. I've read most of the books about him. Yeah. But the highlights of Mr. Blanche was difficult because everything was. It was meeting his family. Meeting his family was another story. Is, to the best of my knowledge, I was the only one of the bodyguards ever to be invited for breakfast at the house. Now, for those that, if they know anything about them, his wife was not the easiest person. She actually taught etiquette classes. She was a real lady, bit of a feisty lady. But after getting back at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, I was the only bodyguard at that stage, which was also quite bad, only having one guy and no firearm because the cops still had my gun from with my case with the pre-election stuff, which lasted 2 years. We got back at about 3 in the morning. At 7 o'clock to get woken up. I mean, yeah, you're kind of tired. And bodyguarding is draining. To get invited for breakfast there, and it's like, okay, so what? It's just breakfast. Only to get later, like, she does not allow that. The houses were next to each other. Eugene was most of the time on the farm, but he had a house in Ventersdorp, and his house that he stayed in with his wife, the house next door was for the bodyguards. So, yeah, that was quite a big thing. And then meeting his family, I mean, knowing all these people, and it was my passion, so...
Right. Now, you mentioned a bit earlier about the bombings and, the trials and things like that. Are you aware who actually dobbed in or who actually sold out those who were involved in this particular project?
Scott, do you really want to go down that avenue? Because I will.
Yeah, go.
I'm not.
Tell us.
I just want people to understand is I'm not here to cause to start division. My country, that I've never spoken about this in my life. I won't. Well, I wouldn't until now. Is I just got sick and tired of hearing these people talking about the Engelse and the English talking about the Boere. We can't stand together in this kind of bull. That is the only reason why I got into this. Okay, from 92 on, I was at any right-wing groups meeting. And one of the big ones, somebody out there might remember the date, but I think it was pre-election. It must have been around 93, beginning of 94. There was a huge one in Pretoria. There was around about 80 to 90,000 people, if not more, where General Constant Viljoen actually said to the people, and I saw what I saw on video, I was there, is if you want war, people decide that day, are we going to vote or go to war? Well, the answer was, I'd say 95% go to war. And Constant said, then we're going to do that. Some of the setup or some of the proceedings that happened before that, I'm not at liberty to discuss, but I will say this, that our job is, although I was fun innocent, was our job was to ignite it. And people that said that we couldn't win the war, well, the bad news, you just don't have a clue what you're talking about, is the military were behind us because they all followed Constant Viljoen. And Constant started down the river. He pulled out at the last time, at the moment. And ironically, the two biggest threats the ANC had was the right wing and the Zulus. And if people do a bit of homework, is they'll see that besides Constant, the military, guy in charge of the military wing of the Zulus, who are notorious for killing ANC guys, what is the chance, same as Constant, just before the election, he decided, no, let's vote it and make this peaceful. This guy had been supplied by Eugene Terreblache with weapons from, what's that from? I thought, no, sorry. It was quite big in the news in that. Not Flakplaas. I know for a fact from intelligent guys that there were crates and trucks full of any military equipment that was sent that side. Spent years killing the ANC. At the last moment, he pulls out, same as Constant Viljoen, and wants to become peaceful. I don't believe in coincidences.
Why do you think he did that?
Well, what 2 and 2 is 4. Constant never started the unity amongst the right-wingers. When Wimbiak Mare did, that's the meeting I was speaking about earlier on. He's the one who said that we've got to pull people together. And that's where any of the leaders are listening. Catch a wake up. This is not about your fame or anyone else's fame. You're nothing. You're only there if somebody has pushed you there. It's about our people, about our country, about our children. Miab was selfless. He was a gentleman. He actually got all the groups together. And this actually was starting to work. I think there were 3 meetings, if I remember right. And he was really such a gentle, placid person. And when this started becoming, I believe, a threat to the ANC and that, Constant Viljoen was pushed in. And they knew people would follow Constant. It was Constant. I'll give him his due where he should get it. He was a brilliant general in the army. And a lot of us, or all of us that did military training, would actually know about him or have worked at him, or been taking orders from under him. I don't believe in coincidences. This guy stepped in and pulled us away from a war, same as the Zulu guy did. And my court case actually is our 2, Ariel and Louisa. They've done all the big right-wing cases. They just said to myself and a friend of mine that there's going to be a meeting with Constant Viljoen, General Constant Viljoen and Colonel Doe Steyn. And this was the first time we heard about the TRC. And my kids could have told, bad news, don't, he won't shut up. And I have respect for people, but I bow before no man, and I don't care what your title is or how many you got is. I have my own opinion, and I would pursue for yours, and if you're right, no problem. And we had a meeting with them, and there was about, besides our lawyers that were with us, because we were still busy with that case, there was about 10 other guys. One group they called the Woodhouse-Nayers. There was a gentleman by himself. That was the second biggest case. He had, at one of the military bases, he had actually gone in to steal ammunition, weapons, and he had to kill one black guy. And he was there. And I actually, when they asked was there any questions after John Constant Viljoen spoke, well, I put my hand up, and Louisa, the lawyer, turned around and shows me like, shh. I'm a pure boo, but I've still got that English mouth on me, and a bad one at that. And I just looked at it and thought, like, who the hell are you? And General said there's 2 questions. There's, number one is, what is the difference if I go and tell them everything I did? What's the difference between me and a traitor who testified against me? He just looked at me, and he never answered. He just gave me this cold, blank stare. And I didn't purposely do it, but I left it for a second. And then I said to him, General, the second question is, and I used this word I used purposely, because I choose my words wisely. So I said, if I traitor my people and I go and tell them what I did, what is the guarantee that I'll get amnesty? And he said, there is none. And subsequently, myself and my friend left. We wanted nothing to do with it anymore. So, yes, I have no respect for the gentleman, but at the same time, I will say, if we got into a war and he was the general, I would still fight for him. Because if I have to take up everybody that traited me, during our court case, in our history, we won't have anybody to fight with. We'll fight to stand alongside. And that's my message to people. The story that the English and Afrikaans, and there's only a few people that come with this nonsense that, the English and that. Yes, I know all about what the English did to the Boers during the Boer War. But what they must also realize is the difference between English and Scots and the Brit and the Welsh. A lot of them don't realize that. The Welsh during the Second Anglo-Boer War actually sent down a small group of their people that came down to help the Boers during the war. They never accomplished anything, but they lost their lives. They were murdered off by the English. It's not as simple as what people say. A lot of those guys were just taking orders.
Yeah. It
was horrendous what they did to the Boers. And trust me, it can't be forgotten. But why don't people let God judge that and punish them for that? People have their own problem now. That was a problem then. Our time is coming. Is some stage. I don't know when, but I've been preparing for a long time. And that's the only thing we can do is start joining groups. I'm not saying go out and going mad. I'm not going for violence, but the saying is, if you want peace, prepare for war. Well, we're not preparing for war. Our shit's right here. Our country's deteriorating. Our water system, everything is buggered, as you would know. You should know it very well. And it's not if we're going to war; it's when. Do I want a war? No, I don't want people killed. I don't want people. I've got daughters. I don't want them raped or murdered. But what choice do I have? Is if they start it, I'll be one of those finishing it. Is I don't want it. I don't want a war. But then again, I'm not asking for it. They are.
Right. Now just getting back to the question I asked, from what you're saying, it appears that General Constant Viljoen was the person who actually dobbed in those who were involved in the bomb attacks. Would that be correct to say?
Repeat that part. That part. Look at it. Was not all the orders do I know, but I do know from Mr. Branch that I'm not saying he was involved. It's not my place to say anything there.
Yeah.
But we were ordered certain things, which we did, and it was a prelude to war. That would have any war needs ignition. Something has to start it, and that was our goal. I've never hurt I've never hurt anybody for personal gain. I won't. I don't like fighting.
Right.
So for me to do something like this took a lot. But at the end of the day, that was the first bit of ignition because we knew it was coming. And we're not Sinner from Rensburg, which I love his stuff and I believe in him. And I didn't do that because of Sinner. But the thing was I did this because of my love for my country, my people, and that's it. I'm going on a limb here. As I explained to you, Scott, I can't divulge it, but as I explained, I've got a lot to lose by doing this and nothing to gain.
Right.
But how Constant stepped in or what the planning was behind the scenes, only he will know. But we were the prelude to the war, and when we needed them, they dropped us.
Right, so they just walked away.
And went to vote. And then we ended up sat for about a month and a half in different jail cells. Everything from Deep Kloof to John Foster Square to most of the time was in Soweto and that. And they actually retracted our bail after we got it, which is very unusual because, we got the most stringent bail conditions there were at that stage. It was 10,000 rand bail. We had to report to the SAP twice a day, morning and evening, and we're only allowed out for work in church.
Right.
And then they retracted our bail.
Okay,
now they retracted our bail.
That's crazy. Now, on a totally different tact, you mentioned you were at quite a few meetings with Eugene Terreblache. Can you talk to us about some of the people he met and what was discussed back then?
I'd have to go a long shot on that one, but
just whatever you're comfortable with.
It's not what I'm comfortable with. It's just a matter of stuff that I'm not at liberty to discuss.
Sure.
I'll be incriminating myself and incriminating other people, which I wouldn't do.
Yeah, right.
But there was meeting with, as I said to you, the head of the Ku Klux Klan. People who don't know, he had to break away from them to become a senator, if I remember right, David Duke.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's huge. He was, most of his stuff he was actually involved with top other guys in meetings and that from other right-wing groups. And with the meeting that I got back so early hours in the morning, that was with his general staff. I make a little effort of it not to hear too much because I have a very good memory. I literally have excellent memory. I'm not very good at schoolwork. I couldn't read books very well, but I'm very good at remembering. And the biggest thing to me that I can tell you was about the Zulus, about the agreement that we won't go to war. I'm just trying to think about other meetings that we had that I can discuss. There was a gentleman. Sorry, I'm lost in one name now. There was an old gentleman who used to write to the Citizen a lot. The meetings I had with them is with Clive Dobby Lewis as well. These people were all, it just came across, except for maybe Boren straight on, that they're all passive people. Clive was such a gentleman that would do something like plan a murder of somebody who in their life they've never been accused even of assault, never mind murder, but that they went to such extremes. Why? Because they had knowledge. They actually went looking to find the truth, and people are just too lazy. I mean, your viewers out there listen to this kind of stuff, but do they actually go read up and find out are we telling the truth? Which I advise people to do. Don't believe anything anybody tells you. Listen, remember, but do your own homework, because the stuff that's going on now is horrendous. I mean, our news media is being probably the ANC by that bloody George Soros, and this guy's got hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. They're playing with that country.
Well, you know that several of the advisors to Cyril Ramaphosa are straight out of the Open Society Foundation, which is run by Soros.
Yep.
Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
I sponsored by him because I don't really care in that sense, because our country's ready. So we're a shithole. We just got to get out the shit now. Is the Open Foundation is, to put it in perspective, they are actually basically sinking America. And people don't think I'm joking. Is go do your homework. Soros has actually funded people. What they do is they go right to his counties in America, and you got American viewers on you before. And the one guy, especially that QAnon, him and myself know quite a bit about a few things there, is they go to a smaller area where you only need $20,000 to take part, and the opposition to this Republican had $1 million. You can't compete.
Right.
That was from George Soros. And why it's important is they are putting in people specially placed, and that comes back from the Clintons to Obama, and that is that people that there's top positions where there's no competition, so it's easy to get in. That they're funding this Black Lives Matter.
Right.
They fund so many of these Antifa, yeah, right. Antifa are, I mean, how ludicrous. They are fighting people that are fascists. Are you freaking stupid? You're using military violence against somebody to change them to believe like you. Isn't that fascism itself?
Yeah.
And most of them are white little kids that are mummies and daddies got too much money, and they think they're saving the world. They are radicals. And America itself, Bernie Sanders and that. Bernie was pushed out now because they realized that the Democrats cannot win on the communist ticket of Bernie Sanders. But the Democrats are social democrats. They're socialists. And for people who don't know what socialism is, that's what our country was fighting against. That was our war was against, was communism. That was the ANC stands for.
No, let me ask you something. I mean, look, George Soros, he famously back in the World War II went with his stepfather, or his guy who pretended to be his father, and was actually involved in taking the possessions of Jews, even though Soros himself is a Jew. Correct. And there's an interview where he's asked about this, and he actually says that the interviewer says, "Didn't you feel bad about what you were doing?" And he said no. And then he referred to the stock market. He said, "Look, it's like buying shares. If I hadn't done it, someone else would have." There was absolutely no moral compass at all. There was no sort of. Yep. So, can you tell me what you think motivates George Soros?
I'd have to be a psychologist. That would be a difficult one.
But why would he be doing this?
Okay, there's a bigger story. Is the whole discussion there, and for people that are interested in the greatest novel being written, actually go into things like QAnon. I don't know if you've heard of Q, Scott.
Yeah.
Those things that they're speaking about, there's so many Q proofs. There's so many things that Trump and Q are the same, and they're going to come out soon. They've been actually tempting the news to ask who is Q. Now the QAnon is spoken a lot about George Soros. It comes up. Now they can't give military details away, but we know for a fact they're not Department of Justice. It's NSA.
National Security Association. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
They are actually, now people don't realize there's a fight between them and the CIA. There's a big thing between them. And the intelligence agencies are stronger than the government. That's what JFK was trying to close down. I mean, who was funding the war against Cuba? Was the CIA. Through Arkansas, they were dealing drugs. And for people who think it's ludicrous, before we watched the movie about it, Tom Cruise was in it, where he was a drug dealer dealing with the CIA. That was based on a true story. Go check it.
Right.
It's not a joke.
Not just getting us back on track. Just getting us back on track here, Clint. Talking about Soros and his influence in South Africa. Clearly, he is an ANC man. Do you think that his surrogates, these people that he's planted in South Africa who run the Open Society foundations, and you've got the Mail and Guardian and the Daily Maverick that he pours millions of rands into, which are big newspapers, online newspapers here in South Africa. Do you think he's just trying to infiltrate every aspect of South Africa to take control of the country?
That I agree with more than saying that he's your wording. I can't remember exactly about how it affects the ANC. These idiots, and that's literally what they are in ANC, and for that matter the EFF, don't realize that this guy is just going to become their slave master. George Soros is part of the United Nations. He does their dirty work.
Right.
If you think people think are their friend, go up and read Agenda 21. They don't give a damn about us.
And Agenda 2030.
Yes, the newest one is 2030. It's correct. Is they speak about, and you'll see what Soros was. This was the plan from the beginning. Was the House of Sud, which is the Saudis, which is the richest out of the group, which, forget about who you think the richest people in the world are. The House of Sud are worth $3 trillion.
That must be the Rothschilds.
They're richer than the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds are 2 trillion and Soros is 1 trillion. The three sides to the pyramid is them. Then there's the religious side, which is the Roman Catholic Church, which there is I just have not got the video with me, but it's about how the Rothschilds actually financed the church and how they helped them out, and that's how they started buying them over. And the third arm was the military wing, which was America, and that's where the biggest mistake came. I think you would have heard that saying: nobody believed that Hillary could lose.
Yeah.
Well, Hillary lost, and this has put one hell of a spoke in their wheel, because America was supposed to be sold down the river now, and Trump steps in and he's changed the.
Well, he's draining the swamp. He's draining the swamp.
Well, that swamp is deep, eh? People mustn't expect miracles. There's a lot coming up in the next, I'd say, year. I can't tell you exactly when.
Yeah.
But take a note how many guys have actually resigned out of top positions. There was one I read about today again. The top Disney guys that have resigned. And it was actually on the keyboards originally was said that, I say originally, it's been going on since, 97? 2017, sorry. That they cannot arrest everybody that's involved. And what that's a horrible thing to talk about, is I'm scared of using the word because I know with YouTube there's censorship and they censor heavily.
Right.
But crimes against children, if you understand what I mean,
yes.
The worst case.
Yes.
That is so huge. Go look at Epstein Island. For people that know Epstein Island, it was used as they call honeypots. Top guys were there, and Soros' son was there. Bill Clinton, Hillary was there a few times. Bill Gates, all these guys at Epstein Island. Now, if you go look at Epstein Island, you're just going to see a little temple. Well, there is a photograph. One got out, and they have more, I believe. But there are underground bunkers there, and in this one photo, you can see there are two grown-ups and there's a whole lot of kids. What they did with them, I don't want to get into. It will be censored. Yeah. And it's not a joke. It's not a joke.
Well, it's
scary.
Just getting back to the subject. Now, George Soros' son is Alexander Soros, and he's, I think, in his 30s now, or something like that. And he is obviously going to be the person who takes over this empire. So it won't end when Soros is gone. Obviously, his son will then continue his legacy.
I think if I remember right, Scott, that he moved all his money, which is actually a lot of rubbish, which they do. Like I think Bill Gates as well. They put their money. They're apparently giving it away to charity. They put it into foundations. It's not giving it to charity. It's the difference between putting money into a foundation and giving it to charity.
Right.
And yes, he will carry on doing that. And what I can't explain to you is George Soros still receives money from the American government.
What for?
There's grants that were paid out, and I will find that for you and I'll actually drop you an email. But
Okay.
it gets money from the American government. I mean, if you have a look now, is Jesse Smollett. I mean, this guy created a hate crime. We all know he was guilty as hell. They proved they got the case against him, and this woman, the prosecutor, dropped the case. They've reopened it now, but they just dropped the case against him. He's connected to Kamala Harris, who's running for president at the stage.
Right.
And there was another one, that other like a colored gentleman that was running for parliament as well. They were connected to these guys, but you won't find that in the mainstream media.
Yeah. Can I just redirect
Yeah.
this back to South Africa? And that is that, as I've mentioned, Soros's surrogates are now advising Cyril Ramaphosa. They're basically running the show. And if you look at the overlap with America, where they've tried to bring in this Obamacare, and here in South Africa now, there's all this talk about the National Health Insurance Scheme. That is
That's
clearly part of Soros's agenda. This is what he's doing to South Africa. He's just pulling it through the mud.
Well, if the ANC and that, as you call it, hippo eyes, I think insulting hippo is actually there. Cyril is a class 1 idiot, just as a little wannabe Malema is. If they think that this is their friend, they're nobody's friend. They're financing them, and they have the speeches they give. They're not written by those idiots. Those guys are half illiterate. I mean, we all know that Suma was like standard 3 or something ridiculous. Those speeches, most of them are written by other people. There's people give them too much compliment. They are advised. There was 2 white women that write a lot of these speeches. Don't give a damn about the ANC or the EFF either.
Right.
They literally set up on the river. We get nationalized. We are in a state of expect is this country to be totally destroyed, and they step over and they take control of the country. You'll never see them even taking control. They actually hide in the backlight. They set up organizations, take over all our mineral rights, take over everything, and they make a killing. They've done it before. They're busy doing it. The reason I brought up America was if he can take on America, come on, South Africa's a joke.
Yeah, it is a joke, yeah. Well, especially under the ANC. Now, what I find extraordinary hypocrisy is that you've got this Open Society Foundation run by Soros, who has such a huge influence over the ANC government. And, you know, they're claiming that they're going to bring democracy into South Africa, and they're going to do all this sort of crap. When you look at what's happening to every single municipality except for Arania, you know, they're just going right down the drain. And nothing has been done about that. Nothing has been done about the corruption. Nobody's been arrested and put behind bars. That's a reality of South Africa today. And this would not be happening if Soros's advisors were advising Ramaphosa to tackle the problem. Because basically they are Ramaphosa's handlers now.
I think it's a bit bigger than that, Scott. Soros is just one of the pawns of the UN. Is you knowing about Agenda 21 and Agenda 30?
Right.
Land is not allowed to be privately owned. What do people think? And actually, listen to Malema, and especially Malema, he's got a big mouth. Is they want the land, and a lot of the land's owned by the government. It's ludicrously that people believe that we stole their land. Oh, what a joke! They own so much of the land, the government, and this land that they want to take is not going to belong to the black people. So if any blacks that ever listen to this and they go, it's about me, and they think I'm a total racist, go for it. I don't care if you think I'm one. I literally don't. But bad news, you're never going to own land. The government's going to own the land. They're not giving it to the people. The excuse is that they will sell the land. Because when they had that, I think AgriForum did a thing about questioning about people about they want land or money, and it was like 90-something% want the money, not the land. Well, the government's not going to give they're going to give the land to people to stay on. They're not going to have rights to the land. So this whole bull that they're going to need the land because they can secure bonds. Well, what banks? Because after the people's land stolen, nobody's going to pay for the land. The bank's going to be destroyed in this country. You can't get a loan then anyway because the land's not your land. This is not just about that. This falls into exactly what the UN's Agenda 21 is, about people not having the right to own land.
So who actually runs the United Nations? Let's go right to the top of the tree. You know that famous pyramid with the eye. Who's the eye? Who's the one at the top?
We're going to debate that. A lot of people are going to say Illuminati, and that I spent since the age of 21 studying that up, and I thought I knew a lot about it. Only to realize I know very little is there's something that goes up one higher than Illuminati. People that think that the Illuminati was uncovered and that, these guys are not stupid. These guys are, and I'm not joking, they're all Satanists. They all praise the devil. Even in the UN, they've actually I've got the photo somewhere of the one woman's something, and they just changed the name with a touch. They've actually got a Satan worshipping place in the United Nations. The group behind that is, and I might go further back than that, is the Black Nobility. Black nobility were 13 of they were the strongest families in the whole of Europe. And black is not got to do with color of people. Black, it's just referred to as the black nobility. This came up and I got a shock when I saw about, remember Sepp Blatter was with his FIFA corruption?
Right.
Now the one woman that was with him, none of the guys which could forget, so I'll come across the name now. Beautiful blonde woman, but she was involved as well with Jeffrey Epstein. And when they brought her stuff up, they actually brought her Wikipedia photo up. But with it, they brought the emblem up. And I almost had a heart attack. Go have a look at Alfa Romeo. Alfa that we all know. Go have a look at the emblem.
With a snake.
Do you know what's on? Yes, and what's in his mouth?
What?
That's a Moor child.
Is that on the Alfa Romeo car?
That is correct. Go have a look.
Oh my gosh. I never knew that.
And Google it. Go Google it and have a look at about the emblem. I'll give you the history of it. That is a Moor child in that thing's mouth. I mean, and that's her family emblem. And that's when a lot of things opened my eyes about the black nobility.
Yeah.
There's a lot of families that are going. Don't make a mistake. There's interfighting between these groups as well. And some of them come from Italy and that. But it is pure evil. As way.
Okay, now before we get back to, I just want to make a couple of comments here. The first thing is that it's interesting we're talking about this because Sina van Rensburg, and you raised him earlier, Sina van Rensburg, he predicts that after the Third World War, the only Christian sanctuary that'll be left will be South Africa. That's when the Boers regain their homeland. That's actually in his predictions. He basically says the rest of the world will just be Satanists and communists, and just it'll be gone. It'll be shot. Now
what is left?
What is left? Yeah. Now before we go anywhere else, because I've got this point and someone asked me to raise this with you, and I need to just do it right now.
Yeah.
And that is with the RVB. Remember they went into Bophuthatswana on
That's
that and they came back and there was this incident. Do you know what happened there?
Yeah, sorry, I've just get kind of like goosebumps from that because that was blatant murder, but a piece of I want to cut out the language because I don't kill for fun. I think I'd enjoy killing that guy. Those guys were injured in that car. I'll get back to it exactly in depth. Those guys that were shot there were injured. There was no threat to them, and he walked up
and he killed them. Yeah,
that was blatant murder. There were no threat. Okay, what? Everyone should know about homelands. I think they should go read a bit more. The South African government gave blacks ground in South Africa, which was fertile, beautiful ground. Look up at Rustenburg.
Transkei.
So much gold there. Transkei, you've got Zululand, you've got so many of them, and that was done for good. I mean, this evil, terrible dictator for good gave the blacks this beautiful land. He sponsored them. He gave them independence. Sure, what a terrible guy. Now with Botswana is, and for viewers, who could explain this to me, is that with their logic, I'm not saying all your viewers, but that a black guy running Botswana, before the ANC took over with the election, he asked the right wing to come in. Doesn't that go against everything that you taught or believe in? Why the hell would he bring them in?
So
that's what happened. I mean,
do you know what they discussed?
Well, no, I was not there. I was not at the meeting. I was actually supposed to have gone out to Botswana. That stage, I was an apprentice, and to try and get away from work for the weekend was a bit of a problem.
Right.
And what was totally was discussed there, I don't know, but it was general knowledge that the right wing was called up to Botswana to help. But that was the black government asking us to come help. I actually have the book here about Botswana. I'll actually go through it again, read it, and I'll be able to give more info on it. I actually know the guy who wrote it. For people who don't know, there was 4 people accused for the Clive Derby Lewis murder, but only 2 went to trial. Well, he was one of them. And but the thing is that the media portrayed it as there was this hell of a fighting between Constantine and the AWB, and AWB just a bunch of drinkers. Well, I never used to drink a drop of alcohol in those days. And a lot of people didn't. They would literally show, you get, in every group, you get a couple of idiots. And I'm not being an idiot for drinking, you'd be an idiot for rocking up a political thing with a few drinks. Sorry, to my morals, it's a no-go. Newspapers, and they're blown out of proportion, they blatantly lie, which they've done about every news thing. I mean, they covered up Pretoria's, where it got burnt down a couple of years ago. Nothing was allowed to be media by it. So people's eyes are being shut by the media, and I'd rather for them, I mean, obviously your viewers will know better, they're coming to your channel, is this is alternative media. This is the only way you're going to find out the truth.
Well, it's so funny because I get called fake news by so many people, and all I'm trying to do is get the truth out there because the mainstream media are fake.
Oh, well, I've got so many videos on that. If I show you, I said to a friend of mine about 3 days ago, because they're talking about YouTube videos, I said, he wants to know what I watch. I said, well, I'd rather put it this way to you. If you have to start going through my history of YouTube videos, and I'm not talking about just search, I'm talking about what I watched. I said, have you got a couple of days? He thought I was joking. Just on your channel, I think I've seen almost every one. And trust me, you're only one of a lot of videos I watch. A lot. Sorry, thank you very much. I love that thing you do. It's excellent work. And that.
Which one was that?
The one the series you're doing on Cinema now.
Oh, okay, right.
Every Monday. Excellent.
Yeah.
But Scott, what did you expect them to say? Well, Scott's honest. He's genuine. I mean, well done, Scott. Of course they're going to call you fake news.
Yeah, it's interesting because I put out a report about the Democratic Alliance and how they're mistreating this small white elderly community at Mamre, which is in the Cape Town district. And the DA are personally implicated in this, and Steenhuisen brought out a report saying that I was fake news and there's a whole lot of BS, and he contradicted the key points I'd made, not knowing that the advocate who's actually involved with this community had written the original report, which had been slightly adapted, and there were a couple of things which weren't perfectly right, but basically the context was absolutely on the money. Now, Carlo Viljoen, who's the advocate, is going to be talking to me on Monday night at 8 p.m. and we're going to be discussing this whole thing. And I invited John Steenhuisen to come and join us so that the DA could give their point of view. And he backed down. He's a coward. And he basically hid behind the mantle that he's not going to give integrity to someone who pushes out fake news. I mean, that was basically his statement.
It's a nice way of putting that I'm not prepared to have somebody insult me and actually prove that I'm a liar. So people must wake up to what politics is. The left and the right. Well, bad news. It's the same coin. It's just two different sides.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you a political question. Of all the political parties out there that you can choose from in South Africa today, which is the one that you would choose? I think I know, but I'm just asking the question.
Actually, you might not. I'll put it this way to you: I have actually joined with the bodyguard,
right?
But not for political reasons. Is because I used to do training. We used to do training camps every weekend.
Right.
At the same time, when I was bodyguard, we weren't doing that with the training camps up in Witbank and Middelburg, and I joined them so I could offer up my the bit of knowledge I've got, I'd say, is I'll give it up for nothing, is to train our people.
Right.
Since 92, I voted in the referendum. I've never voted again. I will not vote. I cannot. I have morals, and how can I vote for somebody if I don't believe him or trust him?
Yeah.
People tell me, that I've got no right to say anything. Well, that's your opinion. How can I go vote for somebody I only agree with 20%? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't vote at all. I don't take part in politics. I will support anybody that's staying in the same direction. And all I ever say is, in our climate we got, is I will join any group as long as they have morals. And the reason for that is South Africa's old motto is unity is strength.
Yeah. Eendracht maakt macht.
That's right. And this in-house fighting is a bunch of idiots that just one wants to grab more glory than the other, and all they're doing is typical old communist principle of divide and rule.
Yeah. No,
Get your fingers out your asses and sit around a table and stop everybody trying to be a boss. We've got one job to do, and that's to save our people's lives.
Okay, I totally agree with you, and I just want to change the direction for a moment, because we got as far as 1994 in your life. Now, what I'd like to, because this is basically a real people live stream, and we're looking at your life as well as part of this. After 1994 and that traumatic period you went through with Terreblache and the trials and stuff like that, how has South Africa changed for you since 1994, if you look at it today? Just tell us what's happened.
It's actually, you know what, I don't think we actually realize how affected we are in our lives. Even to me, as I was listening to people that went over with this LMS Tactical, American guy that helped the family, that they got such a fright at noises at night, and this guy hasn't got burglar bars on, he hasn't got a security door on. Any little bank Africans jumped up, and listening to this guy talking to them, it was like a slap in my face, like realizing we've got so used to this life. Even me, I remember well growing up in a small town next door to Secunda, doors weren't locked.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to play soccer with the black boys. My dad was a soccer coach. I used to go to those days they didn't have taxis. They used to have the buses. That was in 76, 77. I used to take peaches there and go and sell them. There was never a problem about being hurt or something. There was never thought of that. There was no problems. Life was great.
Yeah.
Things are just like, when people talk about the history of this country and that, it's like, what country are you from? Life was so easy. If people lived in harmony, we had a beautiful country. There were jobs. There was, in the 76, I think it was 66, the rand was stronger than the dollar. Even with sanctions. I can't believe that we've got to the stage in this country that we actually accept what we're in. Yes, I know we all bitch and moan about it, stuff in front of you or other channels and to each other. But what the hell are people actually doing about it? To actually realize that what we're living in? I don't leave home without my 9mm. And if you're choking, that is always with me. I don't leave home without it. It sleeps in my pillow. That's also part of bodyguard training, but still, it's a matter of, that is me. You never know when something's going to happen in this country. Or when it's this country around here. I mean, the way they kill the farmers, it's become a way of life, and we're just accepting it. And it's a story about the frog that's been boiled, turning up the heat slowly, and eventually that frog dies because he doesn't even realize it's been turned up slowly. And that's what's happening to us in our country.
But don't you think that the line in the sand is now being drawn? Because, up till now, the ANC politicians, their cadres, their mates, their family have been looting government, state-owned enterprises, government funds, so taxpayers' money. It hasn't actually been a personal looting. But what's happening now, because they feel like they've got the minority group, and in particular the white people, boxed in a corner, is they're now saying, okay, we're going to go after your land, your personal land, we're going to go after your pension funds, we're going to go after basically everything that you got left. And isn't that the line in the sand? Because up until now it's been basically taxpayers' money, government looting, but now they're actually turning the attention on looting the actual white community. And I think that's where it's going to change. What are your thoughts on that?
Scott, possibly. I believe that, but I'd rather refer to what Sienna said, was when people turn back and understand something. I am a religious person. I'm not over religious. I'm not a perfect little Christian. It's not that I devour the Bible, which I wish I did. But Sienna spoke about that. When people turn back to God, that's when this is going to happen. That's why Sienna said he never knew a timeline. That could be it. And I would be surprised if it's not, because there's one thing they don't realize is, I was watching a video again about and this is from a British perspective, about the Anglo-Boer War.
Right. Is
they never saw what's going to hit them. That was the mightiest force in the world at that stage. The Brits. So they met this little group of nobody called the Boers. And boy, did they find out very quickly who they were.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the same in this country. And those guys were still trained. And that was one of the big reasons why I came onto this. I never spoke about this. I never wanted to. But this division we got, I wanted people just to realize there is no problem with the Boers. I was accepted as the Englishman. I wasn't born in England, but as the Englishman, Mr. the Branch trusted me, Wimjak Murray, and a lot of others trusted me with their lives. And I'm English. Sorry, buddies, it doesn't work that way. There's no problem. And people must start to catch a wake up there. And there's crap. We've got differences. Get over it. We've got a common goal here. And a good book to read would be Sun Tzu, Art of War. Your enemy's enemy is your friend.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I refer to myself as an Anglo-Boer because I'm English, but I feel like my spirit is with the Boers, and so I just feel a great kindred spirit with the Boer people.
Well, I am a Boer. I'm not Anglo-Boer, I'm not anything Boer. I'm a Boer. I actually, no jokes, I was actually at a training camp one weekend, and it was actually so cute. There was an oldish lady who came up to me and she says, if those who don't understand Afrikaans, I apologize, but she said to me with this little voice, she said to me, my seun, het jy gehoor dat 'n Engelsman hierso? And I looked at her and said, ja, Tannie. She looks at me and says, wie is dit? I said, it's ek, Tannie. She looked at me, she's like, she's like shocked. And
that's good.
It was actually such a memorable state. I mean, it was adorable to show the lady's face. My people are the Boers. This is my country. I don't refer to myself as an American. They call themselves African Americans.
Right.
I'm not a Euro African. I'm a South African. I'm a Boer. This is my country, and I'll fight for it.
Yeah.
I get it. And that's most important to me. It's my family, and my people, and my country.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, just for the record, we've got about 400 people watching at the moment. I'm just going to address those people watching. I've been burbling on now for nearly 90 minutes, and it's been fascinating discussion with Clint. I think we've covered just about everything in the kitchen sink, but anyway, it's been really interesting. Now, if you'd like to post some questions for Clint, please just throw them into the side chat, and I'll pass them on to Clint to answer. Now, We've covered what happened in Bophuthatswana with the Avia beer. I just want to see if there was something else that someone asked, which I think there was something else. Yeah, this is the actual question.
Sure.
I'm very curious to find out about the incident at Bophuthatswana in 1994 where the RVB members were murdered in cold blood in front of the camera. There are reports that they took pot shots at civilians on their way back to South Africa, but there's no video footage of it. Is that correct?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, not. There's no video footage I've ever seen. The only footage I've ever seen was where the guy blatantly murdered the 3 right-wing guys. I've actually got a friend that was there, the guy I was supposed to go up with, and there's no such thing. I mean, I can't speak for everybody else, but I know with their group there was nothing like that. Who am I going to believe is guys that I actually trusted my life with, my ex-bodyguarding partner, or guys from the media. Come on, seriously, it's like a no-brainer. Now, did that happen? I can't say for a fact it didn't, but I never saw proof of it. And to put it this way, when we don't have rights, first of all, but second of all, when there's trouble, where do you find rights looting?
Right. Now,
don't find that.
I've got a question here for you from Marlena. Marlena's one of our channel heroes. And she said, Olaf wants to, it's actually from Olaf. Olaf wants you to ask Clint what he thinks of Simon and Saitlanders.
I actually would rather do a bit more research there. I read a few articles which I kind of was not too with. That being said, I also know it can be propaganda.
Yeah.
Is that I actually have to look up, see what the real court cases were, if there were cases and they were opened or whatever. But I don't want to speak badly of them. Reason being is irrelevant what they are and who they are. The only thing I will say against them is I think they are, the guys that pop out of nowhere. I take a bit wary. My big problem is the story about this big track they've got planned. Is they're doing nothing more. They're not thinking. They're brainless. And this is not to try and insult them. I think what they're doing is bringing a group, at least the unity I like, but to pack up and leave. Buddy is not very long messer. That's a story about with Silla is the blacks that will attack us that night. What does he think? They're going to go, oh sure, drive through our town with all your convoy and take your stuff, no problem. Do they realize what a sitting target they are, being in vehicles, traveling in like that, with your women and children in? And my first question is, what about the old people in the old age homes? What about people that aren't sorry, that is not being a patriot. That is not being patriotic to and people. And where are we going to run to? The Cape? Sorry, if you really are a brood, you believe in the South Africa, which is our country was actually the Transvaal, the Free State, and a little piece of Natal. Why run to the Cape? And if you run, you're sitting target. I've done defensive driving. I can still try and defend myself. How the hell are you going to do that with a trailer?
Yeah.
Around you? They're going to be sitting ducks.
Right. Now I've got another. Got another question for you. Fiona Timms asked Clint if he met with Louis Theroux from the BBC, who did a real hatchet job on E.T. or Eugene Terreblache.
I'm trying to hold a second. What was that name? Hatchet.
Louis Theroux from the BBC.
Wasn't that the guy that the branch actually chased out at the stage?
I'm not sure.
Because there were a lot of interviews. Because I know there was one guy that he actually.
Oh yes, that's right. He got up and he said, "Get out!" Yeah. I remember that.
I'm gonna actually lie to you. I was there for a couple of interviews, but we did not sit in on the interview.
Right.
We'd actually keep the area safe from that. I have actually watched that video. I'm going to lie to you there if I told you. I don't believe I was there. But I actually have to go back and have a look. I mean, there was so much that happened that stage. I mean, just understand. Besides what we got involved in, those telephones were undated from people phoning from Europe. It was astronomical the amount of support we had from all over the world. It was eye-opening for me. See, it was really like I was shocked about, because a lot of phone calls I actually took because I was English speaking, and a lot of the guys couldn't speak English. I took the phone calls, and the support that we had from overseas, which the media never would report on, was just astronomical. See.
Now, talking about support, the RV beer, for like a brief moment in time in South African history, seemed to have a growing following, and then something changed, and it just seemed to break apart and dissipate. What was the catalyst for that?
Sure, good question. I know that up until '94 they were strong. There was a stage before that where a lot of the guys originally started the AWB with Mr. Blanche. Some of them withdrew, some of them for personal reasons. I don't know what each person's reason was, but that didn't really break the AWB up that bad. There's quite a few of these old gentlemen. One just recently passed away. These guys were tough as nails. And for those guys that understand Boere, these were as Boere as they came. Gentle, soft,
right.
Don't put up with shit. Then up to '94, it was going very well. From '94 to '96, okay, we were too busy. I was too busy that court case. I was visiting a hell of a lot, and it was still going well. But things that I don't know, is the media coverage or was the ANC that covered things? I'm not totally sure. See, the propaganda against them was extreme. I mean, hearing about all these guys that were drunk and this kind of stuff. I mean, I was at these meetings and I never saw this. Town halls, everything from town halls to stadiums to you name it. I never encountered that. I actually only met. I met one guy that was an idiot who owned some holiday farm and that, who was just pushing his luck, and I just very politely let him know that, yeah, he would carry on. Just nicely put, because being a bodyguard is not just about protecting his life.
Right.
As there were a lot of stories about him with another woman. Well, my attitude was not on my watch. And I'm not saying he did anything because I was not there, but that night I know he did not, because this guy, before he could even start, I put him in his place.
Right. So, do you think that the media played quite a large role then in fabricate or in the destruction of the RV beer?
Well, if you look at the fact that South Africa's image to Europe and to the rest of the world was one of there were photos that used to be published about little kids, black kids, scrummaging in the rubbish dumps for food, which was a blatant lie. They actually used to take money and throw it in there. The BBC throw money in there, and they photograph any kid. I mean, black or white, would run there to grab the money and photograph this.
Is that what they did?
Yes.
Wow.
I remember that from growing up as a kid. I used to be on the news. I've actually tried to find it, and I will. But that's what they did. It's the news. I mean, you know how fake this stuff is on TV.
Yeah.
And that. I saw a video the other day, and it's not going back to America, but it's just a matter of CNN, which is, the trusted one. And as you'll know, you're
fakest of the lot. Yeah.
Oh, geez, they are. I don't know them. Washington Post. Yeah, evil. They actually published a video. It was one of the places that they had just pulled out recently. It was in the last 6 months or something. They pulled out, and this, I think it was CNN that published. It wasn't just them. They published this video footage of these. I just can't remember which country was being attacked. I think it might have to do with Syria, but you could see the bombs flying and the bullets.
Oh yeah.
And then the real video came out. It was a training exercise by the American military, and they actually cut the bottom of the video when people had the cell phones. Yeah. I mean, seriously? The other one was CNN interviewing this person live from somewhere overseas, and they're like, can you hear me? And like, a little while later, you're breaking up. Oh my God, somebody picked up that on the camera, because they split the screen to show the woman they were interviewing that. The truck that drove past the interviewer, a little bit later drove past the other person as well. It's like in another country.
I remember that.
The words that get twisted. I mean, Trump is a racist. Didn't you know?
Yeah, I heard that.
I mean, the claim. I mean,
yeah.
Trump is a pure racist. But let's go and look at Trump's history. And this is only to show you what they do to the media. That's what they did to us. Trump was actually fought for the right, I think it was in the 80s, to be allowed into bars.
Right.
Trump's financially supported Jesse Jackson. The civil rights movement. He actually got an award from them. I mean, that is pure black about what he did for them.
Yeah.
Yet he's a racist. Now, all of a sudden, as soon as he ran for Republican, he's racist. Well, that's what they did to us in our country. I mean, is for good racist for giving blacks their own country, their own countries in prime land, and letting them rule themselves?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is.
Now, are there any other questions people would like to ask of Clint? Please fire away. Just drop your questions in the side chat here. Now, okay, we've talked about your childhood going up to 1994. We've covered that time when you were with Eugene Terreblache, and we've now covered what you think's happening in South Africa. Just with that, basically the way South Africa is imploding underneath this ANC government. How do you think that can be repaired? How do you think South Africa can be saved? Because it's clearly becoming another Zimbabwe or Venezuela.
Becoming, I think we are already. I've actually the politics. I actually got into business, and I became a very successful businessman. I have generally done really work. I don't need to, but I haven't felt it now badly. Our towns are depleted. Everything's a bugger up. I don't believe there's a fix. There's only one thing. A miracle can happen. They do, but the only way I see that, the only thing that I can see that's going to happen is there's going to be a war in this country. I can't see anything else. Is the way they're treating the people, with how antagonistic they are, how they're stuffing our country up, the disregard for our lives. You don't hear white on black's murders.
No.
And where have you ever heard a black man be murdered by white that crucifies him and all those terrible things you've spoken about? I mean, that's not our nature. They have no respect for us. They have no respect. The problem as of Europeans that we've got is we're mostly Christian, mostly, and we walk on a chip with our shoulder for things that we've done. Example, slavery. But the problem is through ignorance, and I think believe it's got a certain thing. Our education system was to be corrupted. Is people aren't taught history. We never started with slavery. Islam did.
Yeah.
The Muslims did.
That's right.
England actually, I give England their due. England went to great lengths to actually stop slavery.
In the 1820s,
people really yeah, they actually stopped it. But who else stopped it? Did anybody else stop it?
No.
The Muslims carried on into 1900s, and apparently, I've heard stories that they're still carrying on. I can't say that for sure, but I do know into I think 1960s, 1970s, we still had slaves. Us South Africans, we had slavery in this country. Never. There was no such thing. We carry this chip on our shoulder. We're the only religion that apologizes and has empathy and says sorry, and which is a good thing, to be humble and to correct the wrongs. But it's also our biggest weakness, because look at Europe; it's going down the shithole. It's totally stopped.
Yeah.
How many people were raped and murdered and touched and abused there in Germany in that one night, and it was covered up? What about the rape gangs, the Pakistani rape gangs in London? Sussex, one of those places near London. London, for the first time in history, the whites are no longer the majority. London, England, is not. The whites are no longer the majority.
Right.
They're destroying our culture. We are heading one way down, and South Africa is no different. I can't see a future without a war coming, and that's why when people talk about people leaving the country and that, I'm sad about it. I don't like it, because you know what, we need our people here. But at the same time, I'm not going to be one of those people that hate those people. You got to save your wife. If I've got to save my kids in that, and maybe I'm a bad person because I'm not doing it, but they would get them out. And I can understand why. They love for their children, they're doing it.
Yeah.
You get other people that financially can't. Well, I financially can. Except America, I'm banned there because of my history. The only place they got me on a ban list, red flagged. But I won't leave this country. I've got the money to do it, and I won't. This is my country, and I'll fight for my country. I'm staying up for that reason.
Right. Now, I've got a couple more questions for you. Ron in the chats wants to ask Clint about Johnny Allen's relationship with Eugene Terreblache. Do you know anything about that?
I only know exactly what they'll probably know is... I actually know the bodyguard that was with him at that stage, and I wouldn't even dare ask him because, to put it straight to him, the question is, I wouldn't discuss it. But I do not know anything about it. It was a story that the news covered.
Right.
I would never question Mr. Blanche about it. I've never seen him. That time that I was with him, that was 2.5 years, I never saw anything like that happen. And trust me, I would have stopped it anyway.
Yeah.
But I never saw anything like that happen. I never saw him chatting up women or chaffing them. Can I 100% say nothing happened? No, I can't. I'm not God. I was not there. But going on what I know about Mr. Branch and what I saw, I don't believe it.
Right.
He was a God-fearing person. Yes, a man can be weak, but I never experienced that. And I never saw it. So knowing that, and what the media is like, is, I mean, this has been going on for a long time, from the 60s and that, and before probably, is I doubt it personally. I would be very surprised if it did happen.
Right. Now, before I ask you the next question, I'm just going to shoot off to the little boy's room, so just keep on talking till I sound back. Okay, so the next question is from Tace Lawrence, and he says, please ask Clint, is Stijn van Ronja still the RVOB leader, and why are they completely silent about the situation in South Africa?
Sure. Well, to put it this way, is when I left after 96, after I was innocent, and it's got put up the photo, is that day was the last time I saw Mr. Terreblache, that was when my friends were sentenced. That evening, there was a big meeting at the town hall in Pretoria. We did security from there, and I walked away there, and I got out of politics. I hated it because of the way I had been burnt. There was a lot more that happened, which I haven't spoken about, but it'll take too long. I actually had nothing more to do with them. I am still in contact with Maurice Terreblache, I spoke to a couple of months ago, and his daughter. She phoned me once because they were having a reunion with a whole of the bodyguards and the new ones, and I was just like, "It's all right, thanks. I've been through the political stuff. I want nothing to do with politics. I've had enough to do with what used to be called Veiligheidspolisie, and then MID. For those who don't know, those are the guys who investigate political crimes. Previously, they used to go after the ANC. Then afterwards, they were after all the right-wing groups. I had broke away from all of that. I had enough to do with them. I'm not one of those guys who are going to say they tapped my phone or followed me or anything like that. I don't know. Possibly they did. I don't care. I put all my effort into business, and I was going to stay that way. For the last couple of years, I have been following a lot on politics. I've been following a lot on especially European stuff, and it took a lot for me. And it was only recent. It was as recent as about 2 weeks ago that I just decided that, you know what, I'm sick and tired of the people talking about the problem with English and Afrikaans and these bunch of leaders that are all out there to they want to be the leaders of a group. Well, buddies, you're nobody. You're only there. People support you. Be there because you believe in God.
I'm back.
And you're there for your people and also you. Perfect. And I only recently I joined their group. Am I a big follower of theirs? No. Do I disagree with them? I don't believe in everything they believe. I actually made a comment last night about some of their stuff. But the point is just that I will offer up my knowledge that I've got to them about training and about defense, about military and that kind of stuff. Not everything I can train them because they want to keep everything by the law. But I'll follow any group that are generally there to support our people. So yeah, that's one group I joined recently. why the AWB's gone to grounds and that, I was no longer involved. And yeah, I really can't say much. But without Terreblache, there were not much. I would say, however, it was just a pity that his brother wasn't interested. Because I believe his brother would have been a very good person to take over from him. A very placid person. He didn't have the charisma of Mr. Eugene Terreblache, but he was a real gentleman and a magic person. Well, he's still alive, but he didn't have the charisma of Mr. Terreblache. So what's happening with the AWB? I have no contact with them, except for Mr. Terreblache's daughter. I speak to her now and then. I'd say that's about it. It was another memory I had of Terreblache's and that. If I can mention that, actually, I'm sorry, I just had a chuckle on my face because we were leaving for a meeting one night. I had no firearm, which is because the cop still had it. And as we were reversing out the yard, is the next minute when Eugene, Mr. Terreblache, touched me in the neck. And I'm like, what? You can't swear in front of him. I was like, waarvoor is dit layer? He said to me, I'll repeat it in English after. He said, "Vanaf jy daar was, kyk my eie dogter nie meer vir my nie." From since I was there, his own daughter's not looking at him. And I was like, oh shit. I just like kept quiet.
Now, Rob Roy has asked, if Clint doesn't mind, where did he matriculate as a matter of interest? Which school?
Haifa Park.
What was it called?
Haifa Park High School in Secunda.
Secunda. Okay, so in Secunda. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, now Fiona Timms has asked, can Clint talk about the time the RVB famously drove a vehicle into some building? Remember they went through the glass door?
Yes.
And I've got the name of I think it's Cadessa.
No, that was the Cadessa was the meeting. It was the not World Trade Center or something like that. That's when the vehicle was driven through the glass.
Yes.
It's near the airport in Johannesburg.
Right.
What would you like to know about it?
Well, can you give some background? Were you involved at that time?
I actually was a bit late for that one. I was there, but I was a bit late.
Right.
Me and my bodyguard department always involved in something. That same guy that I was part of all the years is on the video. The truck that drove through that painted vehicle was his father was driving the truck, and as it reversed out, the first car that was in was my bodyguard partner. There was a lot of stories about what they did was rubbish, but they went in there to stop those negotiations. Why? Because we were being sold down the river.
Right.
Look at the proof of the proofs in the tasting. I mean, look what happened. We were sold down the river. Rulofso, whatever his name was, I went to the language. Look at that Puerta. I mean, not Pierre wasn't there, but Puck was there. I think Rulofso, something like that. These guys sold us down the river. And then it's becoming a long Puck Puerta, and then we're really involved. And that's what I'm saying. It's not just Eddie the Clark. Puck Puerta was really talking to Mandela. This comes a long way back. It's not something that happened overnight.
Right.
They went in there to stop these negotiations because, I can't speak for Branch what he thought exactly there, but we knew what was going on there. They were selling us out. Understands communism, should realize what would happen to our country. And with people, the way they treated me in '92, with me walking the streets, laughing in my face was one thing. Was at that stage I knew that he was a communist, and this is a guy that had a pretty pathetic matric. I think I was interested in. When I found my calling when I was in the army, I found military was everything, and from there I started actually becoming very interested. And I know a lot about my history now, and I knew this stuff. How was it that the average person did not know? I lost friends telling them that, listen here, you guys are voting for sport. How about voting for your people? And yeah, I actually lost friends because of that. I've still got a guy today that still hates me because of that, which is something I don't exactly lose sleep about. And I'm not going to insult those people who voted yes, because that's just going to cause division. But the point is that people don't want to read up and go do their homework. It's easier just to watch a TV. And boy, I still think that TV is the worst invention we ever had.
Yeah, it's certainly a lot of propaganda, isn't it?
It's worse than that. Go look at Disney. If you have a look at, and there's a lot of stuff out there, people actually just looked. They got the kids watching it. And so many people out there are guilty of this. Disney, if you take Mickey's name, They actually advertise on the cup. Actually, if you look at the reflection of the word Nikki, it's wicked. Actually says wicked.
Oh, wow.
Go check it out. See if I'm wrong. Oh, there's a lot worse than that.
Wow.
There's stuff about kids from Disney where they got male genitalia in it.
Yeah, I've actually seen that. Yeah. Now talking about that guy from Miramax, what's his name? You know, the fellow who's now going through court for raping women and stuff like that. And
you're not talking about the one who's just sentenced to 20 years.
Weinstein, is it? Or
not Weinstein. Yes, I know you're talking about Oprah Winfrey and them's big chummy.
Yeah.
And that stupid bloody idiot or Whoopi Goldberg said it wasn't rape. Hello, he raped a girl.
Yeah.
He was one of the big mob in Hollywood. Well, his justice caught up. He's been sentenced to 20 years.
Yeah. It's Harvey Weinstein.
That's it.
Yeah, Harvey Weinstein.
That's it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more of them. There's a lot more of them.
Wow.
That's where the stuff about America, why I followed it so much, is a lot has to come out there about how they abuse. That stuff is so prevalent in Hollywood, but not just Hollywood. See,
yeah,
amongst the Republican, to a part the Republicans, but mostly the Democrats.
Yeah.
And you see, once they've got a guy doing that, they've got it on video footage. That's what it's called, honeypot. Mossad has been using that for a long time, and that's what this Epstein. Remember Epstein?
Yes.
This Epstein Island. Well, that was a honeypot.
Well, it's interesting because they reckon now that Epstein didn't commit suicide; that he was murdered in prison.
That was kind of like a no-brainer. He actually hung himself from what was about 30. It was about 40-50 centimeters high. Seriously. And also, there's more to that. He's got is. I'm not saying this is proof or anything, but the body, when they actually got a photo of the body as it went out, I picked up straight away, and not just me. That nose it's not the shape of Epstein's nose.
Ah, okay.
And there are a lot of guys. TRU talks about it, and a few others.
Yeah.
And also, this guy was on suicide watch. Remember, right? He apparently tried to commit suicide, and that they had him on suicide watch. But to go off, you actually need I think it's a panel of 3, but I know you have to have a psychologist that allows you off suicide watch. The cameras, when he committed suicide, were facing a different direction.
Yeah.
Then the camera, when they wanted the video footage, it's missing. Then they found it, and then it was gone again. And the stories that have come out since then that actually he was out of his cell for over an hour, and that was just before the body was found.
Wow. You know, there's so much stuff that I'm just saying to the people who are watching this video, don't believe what you see in the mainstream media. It is all BS. The real stories are covered up. Veritas, Project Veritas, they had a very interesting video, which you can actually see the reporter talking about how Epstein was clearly a pedophile, and they knew it, and they weren't allowed to actually bring it out in the news because the story was just shut down by someone higher up. This is the sort of thing that goes on with the mainstream media. Carry on.
Do you know how big that story is?
Huge.
He's got. Let's put it this way: Epstein was with Prince. I mean, what's it? Not Charles, his son. It was Prince Charles. I mean, that guy's was involved in the story.
Andrew.
Prince Andrew. That's correct. Andrew was not just once. He actually had to. He was in charge of buying all the military stuff. The Queen took that right away from him. Well, since then, after Epstein was found guilty, the first time, which he stepped only in jail and was allowed out during the day, and he was allowed only a year in prison, which wasn't really prison. He went on with this. Now, there was a lot more people involved in this and that. His girlfriend that was with him was his girlfriend / organized the girls for him.
That's right.
Ghislaine Maxwell. Has she been arrested?
No. And what about Bill Clinton?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, Bill Clinton was there 27 times there was. But Ghislaine Maxwell, to show you how deep this goes. Her father, who used to work, they claim a double agent, but possibly a triple agent. And one of the places he worked for was Mossad. And he actually got too big, and he mysteriously died on a yacht. Mysteriously. They always die very mysteriously, these guys. Now, he had 3 daughters. Ghislaine is the one. The other daughters, especially the one, is involved in software that is linked to almost every department in America. Every department. These guys they're not full C. Don't ever underestimate them. They were going to bring out this software about, it sounds great. I mean, if you tell people this, they'll go like, oh, wow. You got a thing on a software on your phone or whatever it was, that if you push 911, they can activate and see exactly where you are and what's wrong, and they can get to you straight away.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, let's go look at the privacy side. They let you know where you are at every stage of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really bad.
What this whole thing.
Now,
Yeah.
let's get back onto our subject. I mean, we could talk for hours about this stuff, but I really want to get back to Eugene Terreblache. Now, is there anything about your involvement with Eugene Terreblache that is not widely known that you want to share with everybody here?
Sorry. Yeah, there is something I did think of now, yeah. The first time I actually bodyguarded for him, and we were in Johannesburg, we went to a restaurant. I remember that you could see from outside, I don't know what restaurant it was, how much you there, is the blacks, and I straight away walked, as the cause to create a bit of a buffer, because...
Sorry, Clint, could you start that again from the restaurant, because we had a bit of loss of...
Sure.
Yeah, carry on.
So at the restaurant, when I saw these blacks coming in towards Mr. Blanche, yes, everybody's a potential threat, but I mean, me believing at that stage still that the blacks hated him, started to you step more into the front to cause that buffer, because they were eating, him and Mr. Rundle. Yeah, just a citizen. He wasn't part of a citizen, obviously, and so natural instinct is to go to protect the branch from these guys. And with Eugene, it's like kind of like, it shows me to one side. It's like, I'm very confused here. Well, Scott, I can't tell you how many people came in, but the first group, there were 15 to 20. In that hour and a half to 2 hours, there was far over 100. And the conservative is how many came in. All they wanted to do was just to touch his hand, just to shake his hand. It's about the touching of the hand. Not one showed they were not antagonistic. There was no threat from them. Not one had any cursing to do with him, not threatening him. Every one of them was so in awe that they could just shake his hand.
These are black people.
I was shocked. Yes.
Now
he was treated worse, I said, by some of the whites than ever the blacks.
Yeah, no, it's amazing how Terreblache's legacy has been demonized by the mainstream media. I mean, they've just... It's like... You know what it reminds me of? And I know they're totally different situations, but you take Vicky Momberg. You know that woman who was given 2 years inside for using the K word? All the mainstream media now, when they refer to her, they put the word racist in front of her name. And now that more recent lady, who apparently is on the run, she's actually gone into hiding. The one who's been convicted of 6 months behind bars. It just happened in the last month. And you know, she is now just basically gone into hiding. And who can blame her?
A woman in jail? Yeah, not a good idea.
Well, Momberg had 90 days. Well, I think it was about 90 days behind bars.
Yeah, Scott, I sat in a couple of different prisons, and put this way, to one place, and I mean, tell me how bad they class us as the ultimate racists. I'll tell you that, Deep Cliff, that actually had tears in my eyes. At night, the distance between the cells is just far enough so you can't touch each other's hands, and in between there is like a big, just dirt down there. At night, you can hear the cells opening, and you know what's coming. And you hear these kids, black kids, screaming and crying. been raped by the other guys. You know, it is. I don't wish on anybody. Is they're not supposed to be in those prisons, and we heard people say how many times, "Oh, these kids are not supposed to be here." Okay, then take the frigging kids out, you idiots. But that was quite a thing to me. See, is as much as I'll fight and do what I have to for my people, is to hear a child raped. I have daughters, and God help the person who touches them. They'll find out that I know a lot more than what I've said.
Yeah.
It was, it actually brought tears to my eyes at night. And it was more than once. It was disgusting.
Yeah. Well, you know what they call that, don't you? They call it slow puncture.
I was going to say being African.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, they've got a word for it in the jail. It's called slow puncture. It's awful.
We were kept away from the general public. Even though that is a proper prison, it's not an honor cell or something like that.
Yeah.
Is that actually sectioned us off from the rest of the community. And not for the reason that people would think, because there was only when they rejected our bail, there was about 20-something of us. I don't know, they weren't trying to protect us. They literally thought that we were a bigger threat to the inmates than they were to us, even though there were so many more of them. I'm dead serious. They actually kept us away. They scared we do something.
Yeah. All right, Bura Liciana here in the side chat. Hi guys, good to meet you. We're talking to one of your fellow members. Okay, now, are there any more questions people would like to ask of Clint? Because I'm going to be shutting down this live stream shortly. I just want to say to you, Clint, thank you so much for being so brave and coming on. I know it's not an easy thing for you to do. I know you wanted to clear the air, and your main message that I just want to clarify here is that people need to work together. Am I correct in that? Regardless of whether you're English or Afrikaans, we're one group of people.
Exactly. If I was accepted, and that was already from the 90s, I was accepted, and I'm English. I'm born in England, South African, but I'm pure English. My parents are English. I was accepted by some of the, most of the top right-wing guys, and there's a couple of more as well, but still, they all accept. Most of my friends are Afrikaans, and that is put your bullshit aside. Is, you know what, we got differences, but we got common grounds to stand on and stand together. I'm not calling for war now, but you know what, prepare for it.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that the various groups, including Saitlanders, will join together, join hands, and even if they're not a perfect fit, at least have a common vision rather than fight each other, because that's ridiculous.
Well, anybody fights each other, I'll literally tell those people to, tell them to catch your, literally force them. The members have got the power. Just remember that without the members, they are nothing. They're just a bunch of guys sitting at the top there, like our presidents and them are doing, that are calling the shots. The people have the power. If they will not follow what the people want, just break away from them. But get involved in a group any group, and I'm calling not just for I don't want to call any political party out. Is join any group, join all of the groups, get involved, get training, and that is essential. Training is not just about how to use your firearm; it's about how to survive, food, how to grow your own food. It's simple stuff, but how many people know how to do it? Survival skills, just everyday general. I mean, it's a robot. Is that guy that broke into your car? And sorry for those people that have been hijacked. But you know what? If you were actually awake, it wouldn't have happened. Most of the time, most of the time, because that guy that broke your window, he didn't just appear. He was there the whole time. You just didn't notice him. People must be awake, and it is demanding. Whenever I go to Joburg and I come back, I've got a hell of a headache because I concentrate on everything that's around me.
Right.
It is a way of life, but you know what? If you have such a habit, it's not that difficult. People can do it.
Yeah.
Go get training. And one last thing that's important, the thing that came out last night, is about firearms. People, once you've got a firearm license, go to your local club, join the club, go to 6 shoots. After 6 shoots, you get a point for every shoot. If you do a provincial, you get 2 points. You need 6. With 6 points, you become a dedicated sportsman. It protects you back.
Can you just can you just repeat that? Because I think that's very important what you just said.
They can join your local shooting club.
So we're talking. Hang on, just to get the background. Sure. We're talking about someone who wants to get a gun license.
Somebody who wants to get a gun license.
Okay.
People who have guns as well.
Yeah.
It's very good for them to have it. It's IPCS shooting. It's Practical Shooting Club. Once a month, they have, as far as I know, it's right around the country. If our small town has got it, they go once a month. And what's good about it is you learn to know your firearm. Your speed improves, your accuracy improves. It's just a great thing. But you do 6 shoots in a year. There's more, but every month there's 1. If you have 6 points, there will be a person that's representative. IPC is you can get a dedicated sportsman certificate. With that, you register that with the cops, and that's a very nice thing to have. Is your gun licenses with yours? I think are 5 years. Well, not yours, but South Africans are 5 years. Mine's 10 years. My license is normal South Africans only allowed a pump action shotgun and 1 handgun. Well, I own 3 9mm. I've got a pump action shotgun. But I have something they don't have either. I've got a semi-automatic shotgun, and I'm also allowed AR. The LM4 is the version of the R4. It's military gun, except it's just semi-automatic, not automatic. I'm allowed that as well. And that's the avenue to get more ammunition with, and you're allowed more ammunition as well.
And that's just by getting those 6 points.
That's correct.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's very, very interesting. Now, I've got a couple of questions for you. Reinhard van Rensburg ask Clint about the Eastergarde. What happened to them?
Well, yeah. A lot of the guys, things split up. I mean, we've got guys. The Eastergarde was it's not a big group. They were you should know that they were the elite within the AWB's military side. Not all of them were bodyguards, but all your bodyguards did come from the Eastergarde. Previously not, but later years, yes. I know quite a few of them still. Is the guys like me? I mean, stopping involved. I mean, after we sat for 2 years at that court case and that, got connections with certain people. I've still got, all the years, I've got connections with my friend that the guy I spent the most of my bodyguarding with, because it is always better. You use bigger groups than just 2 people, but two you know each other. They've got new guys in the AWD that became Eastergarde, and the reason I know that was because Andy Blanche, the Eugene's brother, also contacted me and asked me to come to a reunion, and I was just like, no. I didn't want that. I didn't want any publicity of myself because I had enough problems with the security police. That's what, as I said to you, that's why it was a big thing for me just to come into your program. But I don't know what's happening much there. I actually don't know anything. The guys that I was involved with they're all around the country. Those guys haven't gone anywhere. And there's some pretty decent trained guys there. See, a friend of mine still in Victoria. He gives training in that. He's still the same, just as well trained as he was then. I still do my training in that. There's a lot of guys still around, but not joined to AWB anymore, to put it that way. I don't know who they are affiliated to, but I can tell you this is, I have no doubt, Dave the Shititsa fan they'll be there.
Right. Now, guys, I've given you the chance to ask questions. I think we've covered most of them. I hope that you've enjoyed this discussion. I found it quite fascinating, getting the inside story on what happened within the RVAB. Now, to you, Clint, is there something you would like to say to people who are watching this video right now, or who might watch it later? Just something about what's going on in South Africa, a message you might have for people who watch the video.
This is going to sound hypocrite, but you know what is? Go back on your knees. We've turned to Hollywood. We've turned to movies. We've turned to drinking. Go back on your knees and start praying. We're going to need it. And take this from a person that is guilty sometimes himself of not doing it. Get back on your knees. Local guys, looking after your local guys, actually caring about your neighbor, getting involved in security, training and prepare. Care about your family and look after them. Because at the end of the day, that's worth gold. Nothing else matters. The family is it.
Right. And now, Davy said, Clint, al die deur engineering, se machine werk nog perfect. Not sure what that sounds a bit cryptic.
Yes, the machine werk nog perfect. Well, I'm not, don't debate. I'm just not involved there. I'm not saying that I never said they're not. I can just say up to 96 96 that, yeah, I knew a lot. I mentioned quite a bit. I know a lot more of things that happened, but yeah, I can't exactly admit that on this. Are they still active? Are they still active? How active are they? I'm not going to say they're not, or they are. Never say they're not. And I hope they are. And if there's trouble, I'll trust them anytime. I hope there's stuff in place, but I can't say they are. Yeah, no, if I have no knowledge of it. I broke away from politics in '96 because of my experiences. I was very closely linked to all of them. When one used to launch was, internet. So I didn't just have that bodyguard inside, I had that personal connection as well. And all the generals, but after I broke away and I didn't break away because there was anything wrong with them. I just spent too much time in politics and I put my life into business. So to that gentleman said that and I hope they are, because we're going to need it. I just can't comment on it because I do not know.
Right. Now, I want to just cut across to me for a second, because here we go. Okay, guys, now remember that buffalo painting that we're auctioning when Jason Bartlett gets into Washington, D.C.? Well, there's a bid for 10,000 Rand on this painting at the moment, and that's a steal. And you can put your bids into the side chat here. I'll tell you who's got the winning bid, and this is why it's relevant. It's this fellow here, Clint. He's currently leading the bid. So please, guys, if you want to make a bid on that painting, which is by Bonnie Hutt, and painting sell for thousands of dollars. So it's a steal. I know it's going to go for a lot more than 10,000 Rand by the time we actually get to Washington, D.C., or when we get to Washington, D.C. and have an interview with Jason. But here's your chance to, put a bid in. It's got to be over 10,000 Rand. All right. Now, I just want to say to everybody who's been watching tonight, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure having Clint on. There is so much misinformation about the Avia beer. It's nice to get the other side of the story. And I want to put out a special thank you to all my moderators. You've done a fantastic job, guys, as you always do. And please, everybody, take care. I'm going to just let Clint have the final word, then we'll shut down the channel. Over to you, Clint.
From my side, I'd like to say to you, Scott, thank you for all the effort you put in. I read about how many hours you put in a day on these videos, and people don't realize it. And I, for myself, from the bottom of my heart, I really want to thank you. I don't know all your moderators, but I've been speaking to Marlena, lady, and thank her as well, and tell her she will get that visit from me so I can teach her how Skype works. I think she's struggling with that.
Yeah, oh, that'd be great if you can.
And I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious. I will. Yeah. It's about an hour and a half from here. I will go to teach her. I told her I would. But once again, it's easy to have left the country and just forgotten about it. You got a much better life there, but you didn't. And I'd like to say to you and all your team, thank you very, very much. And We really appreciate it too.
Thank you, Clint. All right, guys, please take care. I'll look forward to seeing you on Monday night at 8 p.m. when I'm talking to that advocate about what happened in Cape Town. I've covered the story a lot, so I'm not going to regurgitate it now. John Steenhuisen, there's still an opportunity to join us, even though you've declined officially. All you have to do is send me a Skype or contact Marlena. I know you're in contact with Marlena. I've called you out as a coward for not attending, so if you want to wear that mantle, you know what to do. Just ignore us. Okay, guys, I'm going to shut down the channel now. Please have a safe evening and take care. Bye for now.